was talking about fog computing, right? These are all exciting words, and the technology landscape keeps on changing pretty much every day, if not in India and other parts of the globe. But then what we need to realize is that technology is simply a means to an end and not an end in itself. So what is that end basically which the technology can really help you achieve? And that, what is that end, what is that objective, typically has to come from the citizens, because smart city at the end of the day is only and only for the citizens and not for anybody else. Everything else is fairly incidental, is fairly peripheral in so far as its comparison with what a citizen's aspiration is, right? And when we talk of converting a citizen's aspiration to an end goal, which if we are able to achieve in its entirety, can certainly make the Indian cities not only smart, but can also convert them into potential thinking cities. Problem definition is probably one of the most important things. And that is where probably, we as a group as a whole, the group of smart city practitioners probably need to spend a lot more time in doing that. So citizens will come out with a lot of, their asks, their aspirations, what they want to do, what is that they want the city to be. To really understand what they are saying and converting it into a problem statement is one of the most important things which needs to be handled extremely carefully. Because if you don't get the problem right, the end which we are talking, which we will fulfill through technology, is never going to be the right end which we want to achieve. And here what I would like to mention is one of the recent things which Pune Smart City has done is we basically did 2 hackathons, right? And hackathon, though a little elusive, but is also kind of getting a little more commonplace these days. What was unique is the way we went about it. So when Pune did the smart city plan around 2015, the citizens came up with a lot of problems, and the problems were bucketed in very specific sectors. That was 2015. After 2015, the problems were converted into projects to be done by the Pune Smart City, with the hope that these projects would alleviate the problems of the citizens. Several projects had technology interventions in them as well. But for whatever reasons, what we realized is that we are not able to move the needle in so far as the impact on the citizens is concerned. And when formally or informally we interact with the media or with the citizens, the feedback is, well, you guys are doing a lot of things, wonderful things at that, right? But then we really don't see what is happening. At that point of time, one of the thinking which came to our mind was, why not basically co-create something, right? Co-innovate with the citizens. So if the citizens have come up with a specific problem, right, why not work with the citizens in finding out solutions to those problems? So that is something which we did. But then the way we went about it, right, we said the most important thing in this whole journey is going to be the problem statement. Because we believe that if it is not the right problem which you are solving, then there is no point in solving that problem. And leave alone a thinking city, you will not be able to even make a city a smart city, right? So for the purpose of creating the problem statement, we tied up with MyGov portal of Government of India. I don't know how many of you in this room are aware of the MyGov portal. We threw open the sectors where we wanted the problems to be narrated in the MyGov platform, and the citizens from all across the country, not only from Pune, they came up with specific problems. Of course, a lot of them were not even relevant, but then there were a whole lot of good ideas which came up. And these ideas or problems which they were facing on a day-to-day basis were basically bucketed in the sectors which 2 years back the citizens had said were their most important problems, right? So the point here is, if we have to make the rightful use of technology to make a city smart and later on convert it into a thinking city, our belief is the problem has to be understood absolutely correctly. How do we understand the problem correctly? We go back to the citizens and the problems which they had identified 2 years ago in terms of the sector. Say urban mobility is a major problem. Now urban mobility, what specifically is the problem in that? You crowdsource those, curate them into problem statements which are understood by people, which are not very straight-jacketed in terms of inhibiting somebody to come up with a innovation in that, and keep it loose to the extent that people are free to come up with ideas, right? So we did that. The submissions were overwhelming. So that's one aspect of it, right? The way you go about defining the problem, you crowdsource solutions from the people, and with technology as the enabler or the means to the end, you can convert a problem into a solution. You are able to move the needle and then move to a paradigm of thinking city, which which in our opinion is about being from very reactive to predictive to begin with, and eventually proactive. So that's the tagline which we are trying to follow. And what I just mentioned is one of the steps which we believe could lead us to that. The jury is still open in terms of what are thinking cities and how can you really convert a city into a thinking city. But in our own little way, we thought this could be done. But, all of these concepts, again, there's a still bigger challenge, which is more like the elephant in the room, which probably needs to be addressed and has not been taken care of for a variety of reasons. And that's the change management part, right? So when we talk of smart cities, probably in recent memory, there hasn't been any initiative of the government which has been as transformative as this particular initiative. And this initiative touches upon each and every stakeholder in the system, right? It touches the citizens. It touches the government. It touches the political leadership. There is no section in the society which is not touched upon by the smart city initiative in some or the other fashion. But having said that, right, it is only human nature that whenever we try to bring in some kind of a change, there is a resistance to that change. And for something like a smart city, the resistance would come in many forms, right? It could be from the citizens, it could be from the bureaucracy, it could be from the political leadership, and whosoever else is getting affected. So just to give you an example, in one of the sessions, people were talking about is the smart city going to make the taxes go up, or is it something which is going to make life more expensive, so on and so forth. But then paradoxically, it is also true that the smart cities need to be self-sustainable. But then how do you really make it self-sustainable, right? So just as an instance, though we haven't been able to do it, there was just this conversation around levying some user charges in one particular meeting. Just a conversation, nothing more, nothing less. It gets leaked in the media, right? And the other day, there's a humongous hue and cry with people saying, why do you want to be levying user charges? We are anyways paying taxes, right? Now, it was just a thought. It was not even something which we had agreed upon or decided, leave alone the quantum of user charges. Just a mere discussion, such is the humongous amount of resistance which comes in. And then the next thing we do is, boss, elections are around the corner, let us not touch this aspect at all. The point I was making here is that when we talk of smart cities, when we talk of making smart cities self-sustainable, right, there are certain elements of revenue which has to come into the system. But then how do you really go about making such changes palatable to the people, palatable to the political leadership, palatable to the bureaucracy? And this is what I refer to when I say that the change management element is an extremely important element. But then we probably need to go back to the drawing board, factor that into our plans, have the right kind of resources to drive it. Then whatever we talk about, becomes a little easy to be pushed. And if I were to draw this linkage with what a thinking city is, without getting into the names, right? This is 2014 I'm talking about, and there was a meeting in, the meeting was in Vigyan Bhavan in New Delhi, right? And the whole discussion was around smart cities and technology in smart cities and all of that. And some people, very, very senior people in the government, they spoke, they commented to the chair that when we talk of e-governance, which has been in vogue for the last 10, 15, 20 years, right, that e-governance, which is nothing but leveraging technology to improve the service delivery and make a life of a citizen better, that has still not been understood, absorbed, conceptualized, and therefore implemented the right way. And smart cities, from a technology standpoint, is of an order of magnitude times more complex. How do you think this will even happen? And this is what, 2014, 2015. The point here is, we are talking of technology, and there is a whole set of people who would have to work on that. And the moment we talk of something complex, it is immediately met with a resistance. Unless these resistances at different levels, be it with the citizens, be it with the, with people like us, who are on the other side of the table, be it with the political leadership, unless they are not handled, they are not mitigated, they are not managed well, each and everything which we are going to be doing is going to be met with resistance, and therefore will not probably see the light of the day as fast as we want it to happen. So, this whole thinking city, smart city, these are great. They are certainly required. No two ways about it. And to a large extent, it is even inevitable. Whether we want it or we don't want it, the forces of nature are going to be pushing you towards that, right? But as we go in this journey from where we are to something which is, as I mentioned, as something which is an interpretation of what a thinking city is to us, which is moved from reactive to predictive to proactive. These couple of things, which is the right problem definition to solve, is extremely important. Technology is just a means to the end and not an end in itself. And third is the change management part, which is probably by far the most important aspect. And that is something we as city practitioners need to be thinking about, need to be working on. And once we are able to put these 2-3 things in place, this transition from a city to a smarter city to a thinking city should be possible. If not in the near future, but certainly in the next 10 to 15 years, we clearly see that as a possibility. I would pause at this. You want to have another speaker come in, and then we can take questions, right? Thanks.